to Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
Happy holidays, Forgers, and welcome to Season 3, Episode number 103 of Heroes Forge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. As always, this podcast is brought to you by our outstanding supporters on patreon.com/heroesforge. This is your show host, Jeff Reynolds, and I'm here with the co-host of the show, who is more awesome than a puppy experiencing snow for the first time. It's Kristen Ashton.
Oh, you're breaking my heart. I love dogs. Dogs are, I'm a dog person, 100%. I've learned a lot living with a cat, and I love him very much, but I'll take a dog any day. And you got a dog recently. My sister-in-law got a dog recently. So these pictures have made 2018 the best year yet.
Yeah, the puppy fever is in the air. Before you know it, you'll have a puppy.
Oh, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping it's a little German Shepherd or, one of those big dogs. I'm not a fan of the smaller dogs because I feel like I'll trip on them and accidentally hurt them. But if it's a big dog, you can smack them around in the face, take some hose and beat them. And they love it. They love getting smacked around.
Oh, that's one way of putting it. It definitely is. Well, we want to wish everybody out there a happy holidays. Hope you had a wonderful end of your 2017, because it's 2018 now, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the Heroes of the Storm world. Firebat is beating down the door, just waiting to come into the Nexus. I had a chance to jump on some tri-mode stuff with Firebat in the PTR, and I am stoked. I was one of the few people that didn't play. Well, I bet there are a lot of people out there that didn't get to play like the modded versions of StarCraft that started all of what we know these MOBA genres, StarCraft and Warcraft. So I wasn't familiar with the Firebat and the whole like thought process behind everything that it should be, and I'm having a blast.
Yeah, it seems like he's meeting wonderful, wonderful reception. Everyone is super excited. He's got great mobility, which is fantastic for a tank. His charge to both get in and get out of situations, I think, is probably something that may make him one of the more picked tanks.
Oh yeah, his E ability is so awesome to be able to just rocket in there, and then of course throwing down the oil slicks that you can light on fire and take talents that they automatically light on fire. It feels like Divinity 2 in a way.
Right, it does, except unfortunately only really specific things get that oil to light on fire. You don't do a fire blast and suddenly the tree explodes because it's coated in poison. No, it's like this one thing, this one trick you need to learn to do to get your oil to light on fire.
It's going to be a definite high skill cap to get that all combo womboing in there and, making sure that you're getting all of your abilities pushed in there to do as much damage as possible. And the model is so cool. And there's a Fel Reaver skin. Sold.
Oh, it's beautiful. And I think my favorite part, aside from the Fel Reaver skin and just how he looks, is the sound that oil can makes when he tosses it. I cannot stop listening to that sound. I don't know what it is, but I feel of all of the things in the Nexus, that is the most perfect sound ever.
Oh, really? I haven't really paid attention to it. I got to listen to it.
Yeah, it just sounds so real and legitimate that I absolutely see that as an oil can that's been tossed to the ground.
Over the 2 years of doing this show, I have gained such an appreciation for all of the elements that go into making these games. I mean, it's things that we take for granted as gamers all the time. We're always looking at the game that comes out, the new Grand Theft Auto, like, are the graphics better? Like, oh, the graphics are better, but what about the sound? What about the animation? What about the storyline? What about the writing? What about all of the voice acting? All of these things that go into these games, and we talk about them on a weekly basis on this show. I mean, in Heroes, they're just killer all around.
They totally are. And that's it. No matter what part you like about it, even if it's a tiny thing like the sound of that oil can, somebody worked really, really hard to make that happen. And that's so cool to hear that and go, whoever did that, 10 out of 10. That's amazing.
And did I mention that there's a Fel Reaver skin?
Yes, I believe you're going to be getting that Fel Reaver skin when it drops.
Oh, so cool. So cool. Kristen, have you had any crazy games in the Nexus recently? Have you had anything that you've, pulled up from the bottom or maybe lost at the last second?
Well, there was a game yesterday, Jeff, where it was Team League. It was Team League, so we're ready. We're drafting. The enemy team first bans Tychus. So we're going, okay, probably Cho'Gall. Who first bans Tychus unless you go Cho'Gall? We ban Ariel. It comes to pick. They don't pick Cho'Gall. Apparently they're waiting until the end because we banned something. Then I believe it was Gorath who goes, all right, if they ban Leoric, they're going Cho'Gall. They ban Leoric. So we're sitting there laughing. Kyle and I take Cho'Gall, and the enemy team is sitting there trying to come up with a plan. And then it gets to the load screen, and sure enough, the two people that would have picked together have Cho and Gall as their profile images. And we laughed our way to a victory with that one.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh, how do you even... the conversation behind that must have been so funny. Like, wait a minute. We can either draft against Cho'Gall or we could just pick Cho'Gall.
Exactly. And they were running the cheesiest comp. There was a Falstad, and they were going to have a Morales on the Cho'Gall. So it felt great to take it from them and then showed them what it means to play such an awesome hero.
Oh, I am so happy you shared that. I didn't know that happened, and I gotta watch the VOD. That is such a cool story. My story is just basically, coming back from 1% on the core. We've all done it, and it just feels so good. Anytime that happens, or maybe, 10%, or you got your shields down, or, you just fighting at your core, thinking that you're gonna lose, don't ever give up, because there is that moment where you could team wipe, walk right past all their keeps, go right in and just take their core down.
So what map was that on? So what percentage did your core get to?
I believe it was 1%. We had the shields back. We're fighting on the core. It got to 1%, and we wiped them. We team wiped them, and then we just walked. It was on Blackheart's Bay, and we just walked right through and just got right to their core and took it out.
Oh, what a loss. What a loss. And of all maps, too, Blackheart's Bay. That's a rough one.
It was great. It really, really was great. New year. Let's get this thing started, and let's get the show rolling with a Forge.
Let's forge.
That's right, 2018, and we're getting started with a super special episode here in 2018, a featured Forger episode. If you're out there wondering what our show is all about, what we do is we build hero kits for heroes that aren't in the Nexus yet, and people send us their ideas and we build kits off of them. That's what we call a featured Forger. Kristen, who is our featured Forger tonight, and what are we forging?
Well, tonight we were suggested by Tobias, and thank you very much for this suggestion, Vindicator Maraad, bringing a Ret Pally into the Nexus, and not only a Ret Pally, but a Draenei as well, which is still something we have yet to see.
Totally. Tobias's kit is so cool, and he sent us the kit, and it said, we need more space goats in the Nexus. We've been talking about this. This is probably our 4th week in a row bringing this up in some way, shape, or form. So we're in total agreement with Tobias and most of the people out there. It's not represented in the Nexus yet. I do not think that we are going to be waiting long to see a Draenei in the game. I am going to throw it out there that I think the next hero after Firebat will be a Draenei. I think they can't avoid it any longer.
Yeah, that's fair, right? The first quarter of 2018, we'll probably see a Draenei. We've got pretty much everything else on the table. why not a damage paladin?
Oh, absolutely. Or any kind of paladin. I mean, we forged multiple paladins on this show, which I know Kristen loves, paladins. And we also have forged them in a whole bunch of different ways. And this kit sent in by Tobias is another way. And it just shows how any sort of class can be done in a million different ways. So there's a million different algorithms that you can put together to make a hero that's different but the same. So let's hear a little bit about Maraad and his place in the Warcraft universe.
Can do. As the title suggests, Maraad was a paladin vindicator for the Draenei who fought numerous times to protect his people from the demonically possessed orcs on Draenor. During one particular siege, Maraad was tasked with leading a group of helpless, unarmed refugees to safety. During this passage, he saw an orc and chased after it, desperate to kill it in retaliation for all the pain they had caused to his people. Emerging victorious from combat, Maraad ran back to the group of refugees he had promised the light's protection to, only to find their lifeless bodies littered along the way he thought was safe. After blaming first the light and then himself, Maraad continued onward, forever seeking to fight orcs. In time, he got another chance, but in a different timeline. Hooking up with Alliance forces, Maraad headed to Draenor 2 with the desire to stop the orcs before the harm he suffered could come to the alternate timeline Draenei. While he did fight bravely, he was eventually felled by Blackhand during the Battle of Shatrath. His weapon, the Hammer of the Naru, passed to Yril, a Draenei paladin from Draenor 2.
And Yril is one of the characters that we've talked about on this show before.
Yes, she is. In the alternate timeline, she is the leader of the Draenei. But my question is, where is Maraad 2?
Oh,
right?
In Battle for Azeroth?
If everyone's got a double, where's the other one?
Battle for Azeroth, I think.
Oh, really?
No, I don't.
I mean, maybe, right? Maybe he wakes up after being asleep for 10,000 years of justice and he comes out with his hammer.
Who knows? This story, though, I mean, have you ever watched a horror film when you're like, hey, don't go in that closet. Don't go in the closet. What are you doing? Don't go in the closet. They open the closet and then bada bing, bada boom. There's another part of the horror film that makes it horrific. This is what I see when I hear the story of Maraad, especially that first part when he is so overcome with passion to destroy his enemy that he forgets what he was supposed to do in that moment and just sends those poor survivors, and there's a video you can watch of it on YouTube. He sends them, down the hallway, and he knows that they'll be safe, quote unquote, because he just doesn't care at that moment, and then they die.
Right, and then he blames the light first because he believes the light abandoned them and he does take responsibility for it. But this is case in point where paladins kind of irk me, right? It's like, it's your own fault, own it, buddy. But I think I'm too hard on paladins because he lives with this for the rest of his life. He spends the rest of his existence with the burden that he let down innocent men, women, and children. And I mean, even Uther was murdered by the student he didn't try to stand with during hard times. So I often forget that the paladins are very much punished for taking very extreme views when what they should do is try to understand the situation in full before running off for vengeance.
That's a really good point. And, Maraad does pay the price continuously throughout his life and then ultimately his death. He carries it with him the entire time. So when Tobias sent this into us, he had a little intro to it, and he's saying that Vindicator Maraad is a paladin, but not like Uther. Uther covers the holy paladin role in Heroes of the Storm, but we need some retribution, protection, love. I was thinking he'd fit as a good melee tank, especially against mages, depending on which way you wanted to go. That was his little note. Then he goes on with an awesome kit that we're each going to pick one ability from and then build our own kits off of that. As always, we're going to have 3 kits by the end of this, and you can check out all these awesome kits on our website, HeroesForge.club. Navigate to the podcast tab, and then you'll find the Maraad posting. It'll be the newest one, and you can check it out. All right, Kristen, I'm going to get this thing rolling this week. I'll start it all out, and I'm going, off of Tobias's recommendation here. I'm going to say that he's going to be a protection paladin, and he's going to be the tank inside our team comp.
Oh, fantastic, because I went with Rhett. So why did you go with protection? Did you really like that idea that he's a big guy, so it would fit him taking a tank role?
Yeah, a lot of it, I think, one of my best buddies, we play Warcraft together. He plays a prop pally, and I just love the animations. I think it's so cool, and that tank figure, and with the lore, I feel like it burdens him so much that he couldn't protect those people that he sent off. So now he devotes everything he does in the Nexus to being that protection figure, and that's where he focuses his whole light.
Great. So you're doing post-refugee massacre. Nice.
Yeah, so, and I understand out there that he doesn't have a shield and a sword like a prop pally does and all this kind of stuff. We're bending the rules. We're bending the rules here for this to make it a little more, a little more cool. We can bend the rules here on this show. So we're going to start with the trait, which is the first thing we always start with. And the trait that I came up with is called Vindicator. So Vindicators are defenders of the Draenei society, standing as the primary guardians of Shatrat City during the orcish invasion. The fantasy that I'm going for with this kit is to make Maraad a protection paladin that will do anything to protect his team. His past is stained with the memory of his failure to protect, pushing him to protect others in any way possible. Luckily, in the Nexus, he has the light to help him. With this trait, anytime 3 or more heroes are near Maraad, the light will reduce all the damage that they take by a small percentage. This will be visible to the enemy team as a shimmer on all of the players affected.
Oh, cool. 3 or more heroes. So he's going to be a big team fight guy, which makes a lot of sense, right? He's not going to abandon his team this time. Maraad. Oh, could you imagine the jabs as you run out of the Nexus?
Oh, I know. There'd be a lot of jabs from other heroes, especially like Illidan, I'm sure would say something that wouldn't be too great.
Gul'dan.
Oh, Gul'dan would probably have, because, Gul'dan and the Draenei don't really get along.
No, they don't really have a happy history, as it were. So that's really cool. So is it so there's going to have a shimmer. Are they going to have kind of like a protection bubble around them as well, or is it just that light?
That's a good question. I think because this is living on a trait level that you think they would just have a shimmer, not actual bubble around them. You don't want to clog the visuals up too much, I would think. So I would think that they would have just a light shimmer.
Yeah, that's really pretty. Now, would the shimmer be kind of a light, or would it take the shape of a Naru?
Oh, that's cool. I think it would just be a much less prevalent version of like a Ana alt when you give them the nano boost, which is actually not that standouty. When you have the nano boost on, you can't really tell sometimes that your nano boost is on if you're really not paying attention to it. So I think that it would be a little less than that, but still just a shimmer.
Yeah, totally. And I'm assuming then too, so would you imagine a tree of talents that would buff this, or would you want this one to kind of take a backseat to the other abilities?
I think there would be some talents that could buff this. Maybe it would also do increased damage, or increase spell armor, increase physical armor, like increase, whatever, so that you could kind of morph what this trait did depending on what you're fighting.
I like it. It makes him feel maybe like a dad or a grandpa, a father figure of sorts, watching over the team. And everyone wants to rally around him because they love this guy.
Totally. So how are we going to rally around him? Well, we need to mount into battle. And I'm saying that Maraad would not have a mount in the game, would not be able to ride a mount. He moves at a normal pace. But when you mount up, he's just going to run faster, like just charge forward with his giant mace. He's just charging forward, moving faster on his feet, because we don't have a hero in the Nexus that mounts up and just runs. You know what I mean? There's these other characters like Asmodan and those sorts of characters where they don't actually ride a mount. They do just move faster. But I'm talking about like a humanoid that would just run.
Oh, cool. So Evangelion, big mech kind of style where the steps are really heavy, right? And you can hear the boom, boom, boom as they take off.
Totally, yeah. Just shoulder forward. I'm just charging in Braveheart status into battle, and then if you get dismounted, it would be just like that Asmodan moment where you're just not moving faster anymore. You'd be walking or trotting along the battlefield, and you're running in so that you could do some of your basic abilities. Now, this first one is called Till My Dying Breath. So Maraad is incredibly passionate about protecting his team and uses all of his strength to make it happen. When this ability is activated, he takes his cracked mace and smashes it on the ground in front of him. The target area has 2 circles, so these are 2 circles that sit out in front of him. The smaller circle in the middle is where the mace hits the ground. If an enemy is in this circle, they'll take a large amount of damage and become stunned by the light for a short amount of time. The larger circle that encompasses this smaller circle is the AoE effect of this ability. All heroes in this circle, when the ability hits, take a small amount of damage, and the amount of healing they receive is reduced for a short amount of time.
Interesting. So with the healing reduction, do you think he would be great to pair with Ana? Or do you think Blizzard would put a cap on max healing reduction and it would become redundant?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think they would. Maybe they just wouldn't even cook in another ability like that so that you couldn't have massive healing reduction, or maybe they just don't care. Like maybe you have to draft damage on top of that because you're not going to be able to heal anyway. So maybe they would counter draft it, and maybe it's not the right time with Ana and the Nexus to have an ability like this. But that's a great question. I don't know what they would think. If it was me, I think I would leave it and just have the other team draft against it. But maybe that wouldn't be fun.
Right. And I mean, also, too, how long is the wind up? Would the enemy team have time to get out of the way if they were paying attention?
Yeah, I want it to be a huge wind up. Like, I want them to go all the way back. I'm really into this. If you've been listening to the show for a while, I'm really into these big, two-handed weapon attacks where you just sling it all the way back and you pull it over your shoulder and just bring it smashing down, deal a big amount of damage, and just to have it come straight down in front of you, but take a second to do that. And what I think is really interesting visually about this idea is that it would work kind of like, all right, so when you have a Garrosh pull, it puts that V out in front of you, and you can see the area where you're going to stun them now because they changed the ability. So this would be the big circle would be at Maraad's feet, right? It would be that big circle that goes at his feet, and then the little one would be where the mace would hit. So that'd be a different kind of visual to see as you select this ability to activate it. That circle, you could bring it all the way around yourself to find the right point that you want to bring this mace down. And there's some really cool opportunities for animation there.
Gotcha. So kind of like Ragnaros' meatball, except you don't need to draw the line. You simply drop where the circle is going to be. And within this larger circle, your mace can hit pretty much anywhere you set it up.
Yeah, and imagine like this light just coming splashing out of the, I just think that's such a cool visual.
Right? And then the enemy team's going, it's blinding me! And then they hiss at you and they run back and hide in the bushes because they're creatures of the dark.
That's right. Hopefully, because you'd have a really, really high advantage to beat them if they were. Let's get into second basic ability here. This one's called Blessed Hammer, and this comes straight from World of Warcraft Protection Paladin ability. And this ability has 2 charges. So Maraad will summon a slow circling light hammer that will deal damage to all enemies that are hit by it. This hammer will circle Maraad 3 times, but each time it's spiraling closer to Maraad as it goes. Kind of like when you put a coin in one of those things in the mall and it kind of circles around and gets closer and closer and closer to the center. So because this ability has 2 charges, multiple hammers can be circling Maraad at different distances at the same time. Each time the hammer lands a hit on an enemy hero, it reduces the cooldown of his Q till my dying breath.
Nice. So you tie these together and you want to make sure these hammers are always going. Now, are you thinking there's a really long break once you've used both hammers, so you kind of have to be aware when you pop one and the second?
Totally. Yeah. And if you're in the thick of a fight, you're using your trait, so you've got 3 other heroes at least that are with you. They're taking reduced damage. You're in the middle of this fight, protecting everybody. You throw these hammers out and they're just circling you. They have to retreat or you're just going to go ham on them, right? I mean, you're going to be taking that hammer and just smashing it down constantly.
Right, and I love this idea too because it's a stun that they'd be giving you, and you don't want to give your enemy stuns. That is a very bad thing to openly gift to your foes. And I love this idea that you're working with circles here. The first one is circles, and this one is a circle. It fits the character, I guess, kind of that holiness, no sharp edges. All is connected. The beginning is the end is the beginning, kind of a thing.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I didn't even think of that, but that's really, really smart. And the other thought here is like the combo with this. So if you can get your Q to stun them, you hit them in the middle because they're in the wrong spot. Again, they have a second to get out, but you hit them with the Q. As soon as you hit them with the Q, if you activate this hammer, it'll be swinging around. I love the thought, though, of making the first hammer circle be larger than what you would have to be in order to hit them if they're stunned in the range of the Q. So you'd have to time it perfectly to where you activate the hammer to circle and it would hit them as soon as they came out of the stun. So it would reduce the cooldown on your stun again, and then hopefully, you got enough time to get it off. I mean, I love abilities like that, like Zul'jin's axe swing. That's just a weird distance away from your tune that you have to kind of figure out how to maximize it.
It totally is. And that then speaks to skilled play, right? You have this incredible ability. Chromie too, I think, really falls into this, where it's kind of off, but if you put in the practice, people will hate you for your ability to wipe their team.
Yeah, absolutely. Same kind of thought. So the next basic ability is called Blinding Light. Another prop pally special here. Maraad channels for about a half a second and then lets out a blast of light that's centered around him. All enemies that were hit with this will take a very small amount of damage and be blinded for a short amount of time. So another blind in the Nexus. You can never have too much, right?
No, not at all. And I mean, now we're at the point too where there's spell damage and there's basic attack damage. So this is something you could totally draft for. And who doesn't want a tank that has basic damage control, right? I mean, Johanna's wonderful for that.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thought here. You're just protecting, and if you can just blind them, you're peeling and you're blinding and you're stunning and you're doing everything you can to save everybody that you're fighting with. And then the heroics go even a step further. And my first heroic, I love it so much. It's Tobias's featured forger ability. This is from Tobias's kit that helped me forge this whole kit, and it's Repentance. So you're going to target an enemy hero. That hero is incapacitated for 4 seconds. Repentance breaks on damage. When Repentance is broken, that target hero's abilities go on a 3-second cooldown. And then Tobias writes that it's sort of like an Anubarak cocoon meant to shut down the backline healer or damage dealer in the fight. But you've got those abilities that come off only at a 3-second cooldown when this is done.
Interesting. Okay, so incapacitated, they're taken out, but Repentance breaks on damage. So could this be broken earlier? If, someone smacks it, like the cocoon, right? The cocoon goes for a set period of time. You hit it, it's done earlier.
Yeah, I think so. I think it does, but I'm not sure if this is both friendly and your team, if it's both teams that can break this cocoon, if it's just the enemy's team, if it's your team that can break the cocoon early. I don't know.
I like the idea of it only being the enemy team, right? Because that would stink so bad to do damage near the cocoon and you let out your enemy after your new Barak. Look, I just controlled the Gul'dan for you guys. Why you gotta break my heart?
Yeah, we feel that with Anna's sleep dart, right? We feel that same sort of feeling where, Anna has a clutch sleep, shoots it off and just hits, and then that targets a sleep, and then, Vala rolls by and pew, 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 and no!
The slow-mo, no! And then they break out and they've got 3 seconds cooldown, but it's too late.
It's too late. Now imagine if somebody's rolling into a fight, they've got all of their abilities already off cooldown, they're ready to go, and then you just wrap them up into this and give them a 3-second cooldown. Now, my question would be, if they have a longer cooldown than 3 seconds, do they get that cooldown, or is everything going to switch over to 3 seconds, right?
I was about to ask that same question, right? That, or is the 3 seconds added to the cooldown? So if the cooldown is at 5 seconds, you hit them with this, is it now 8 seconds?
Oh, I love it. I also love the idea of taking this idea and kind of morphing it a little bit and making it where all of their cooldowns are paused while inside of this, because everything keeps ticking as you go. You die, all the cooldowns are ticking. What if you could pause their cooldowns while they're inside? That's a cool idea too.
I support that entirely. That is a great idea, because then you still have that added 3 seconds on top of whenever that enemy was caught out, and they should have been thinking ahead, but maybe they weren't. And now instead of a 15-second cooldown, we're up to 18.
Yeah, what a cool idea from Tobias here with Repentance. So many millions of ways that you could go to make this cool, and maybe some of those ideas we just talked about were talent choices. Maybe you could go into some different things. Bravo, super awesome. Now my second heroic is called Guardian of the Ancient Kings, and if you're a prop paladin, you know what this is. It's going to be the same thing in the Nexus. So Maraad is empowered by the spirit of these ancient kings, and when this is activated, he'll transform into a larger light empowered version of himself, reducing all of the damage that is dealt to him by 75% for a short amount of time. So huge. It's different than a Mirrodin stone form. It's different than other things. You're just reducing all the damage that you're dealt for a while, so you can stay in that fight, body block, and protect the people that you can save, because, Maraad, you didn't do it before.
He didn't. It's true. I mean, he's got to live with it. It's not wrong to call him out for it. His vengeance got the best of it, but but I love this idea that he turns himself into this enormous glowing target that's hard not to focus on hitting. He's going to be in your face. I'm assuming popping his basic abilities as well.
Oh yeah, doing everything that you can inside that fight. And being a bigger toon at this moment, you're a body blocker. I mean, you're a roadblock. You use it for different types of things to push forward. You're that battering ram that's coming up for the light, slamming your mace down with that awesome animation. Basically, that sums up my whole kit. Protecting everybody at your team with any cost necessary and using these awesome abilities to do it. So before we get to Kristen's kit that was inspired by Tobias's as well, we have some people that we definitely need to thank. We need to thank all of our patrons for supporting this show week after week. As always, we couldn't do it without you. And we need to thank our newest patron. Welcome to the patron crew, Jared L. Thank you so much for helping support this show. It goes a long way and we really appreciate it. So thank you, Jared. And also thank you everybody out there that supports the show on iTunes. It's easy and free to support the show on iTunes. All you have to do is head on over to iTunes and drop us a 5-star review. Make sure that you leave a comment in there so we can give you a shout out in the show at this very moment. And thank you again, Jared. Rock and roll. All right, Kristen, it's time to hear your kit for a Maraad. What are you starting with? What is your role classification going to be?
Well, I went with Assassin because I went with before the massacre Maraad, and I got excited with the idea that the red pally needs representation, and the red pally is the damage pally after I did my research, and I went, you know what, sure, I like damage.
Hell yeah, that is so cool. I mean, I love prop pallies too. I think this is such a cool thing that we have two different representations, and then of course the featured forger is a whole nother one. So I can't wait to hear this assassin. Let's get it rolling with the trait.
All right, the trait is called Eye for an Eye. Vindicator Maraad is no saint, having left innocents to a terrible fate, all to pursue vengeance. Such a burden has weighed heavily on the paladin, causing him to become a tangle of thorns, hurting those that hurt him. I guess it does kind of take place after, but it's still the battle mindset. Not the I'm going to sacrifice myself for the younger generation. But I still want my vengeance guy. When attacked, Maraad produces a shield of light that absorbs the attack and deals damage back to the attacker.
It's just easy to get confused because of all these alternate timelines, I'm telling you. But I love this. Okay, so talk to me about it a little bit. So is this ability, this trait on a cooldown, so when you're able to absorb that attack that's inbound? Is it passive?
This is on all the time. It's absolutely passive. You do damage to him, he shoots it right back at you. Doesn't matter if you're melee. It doesn't matter if you're ranged.
Nice. So anytime you attack him, you're getting hit.
Exactly. He's a thorny little monster. And it's kind of like the Genji, right? You want to attack him, but what if he turns on his deflect and suddenly you've killed your whole team? So we have this hero here who you want to ignore, but at the same time, you really shouldn't.
Oh, I love it, because you gotta be on that enemy team. You gotta be figuring out who's going to attack Maraad, who's going to be laning against this Maraad, because you gotta have a lot of health, or you gotta have a healer with somebody. I mean, it's beatable in a lot of ways, which I think is cool. You just have to play against it in the right way. I love it. So, that is so cool. What mount does he ride into battle?
I want him to be more bloodthirsty. Like I said, I went with the more assassin-y guy. So I think he should ride his enemies into battle. I think Maraad, the hateful Draenei paladin that he is, who wants vengeance on these bad orcs, would summon two of these demonically possessed orcs, and they would run on all fours and pull his chariot.
Like his light forged chariot, and these
Exactly.
orcs, they're poor orcs are having to pull it.
Exactly, but they're not the thrall orcs, right? These are the demonically possessed. They've sold their soul to the demons, and these are the ones that Maraad found and made his chariot.
That is too cool. Does he have like a whip, or is he eating grapes? They just know where to go.
He got the carrot on the stick. I think maybe depending on the type of chariot, it would determine what he's doing. I think classically you'd have like one of those little crops, the riding crops, right? That you'd smack their little bums with to get them to run fast. But you could totally have a silly non-light, and then they've got grapes, the carrots, maybe there's an apple. Orcs love apples.
Little known fact out there, a little known fact. I can't wait to hear what your skin idea is, because I'm going straight to the mount once we get to the skin ideas at the end. What is your first basic ability?
The first one is the featured forger ability, and it's the Hammer of the Naru, his awesome weapon. It's got floating rocks around it, and it's a giant hammer. It's a short range, slim frontal cone, kind of like Jaina and her little blast. It's low damage, but it slows heroes.
Oh, so many cool combinations of abilities that we know in the Nexus already. That's another really fun thing to do when you're forging a new character. If you're out there thinking like, I can't come up with these crazy ideas, like take ideas that are already in there and put them together in a cool way like this. I mean, this is a really, really neat idea to add like a Leoric skeletal swing into, like you said, a Jaina, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and it's really, really nice to have some sort of CC on an assassin, as I've come to learn with the slow, with the Jaina, right? It's very challenging because a lot of it is based on your ability to aim and to hit the hero and not freak out when a fight's breaking out. But once you get it down, the potential to delete or stand your ground during a one-on-one, even a one-on-two fight is just intoxicating.
What do you imagine this looks like? I know this is our featured forger ability from Tobias, but what do you think this looks like?
I think It would have to invoke the light. He's a paladin, and from what I've read, everything invokes the lights with paladins. So maybe he slams it forward and light shoots out in that cone.
Oh, nice. So cool. I mean, like I said before, I'm all about that. Slamming the huge hammer down. So cool.
Exactly.
What's your second basic ability?
The second one is known as Justicar's Vengeance. When activated, the next hit from the Hammer of the Naru, when it makes contact with an enemy, is an explosion of light that damages the enemy and heals Maraad. If the target is slowed or otherwise incapacitated, they take double damage.
Oh, so this is a little back and forth here. So you're thinking about hitting them with the Q and then hitting them with the... Well, so, okay, here's the question. So the W is going to act like Zul's ability, which just empowers his next attacks, right?
Yes, yeah, and also kind of like Thrall when you hit Wind Fury.
Correct. Okay, so you hit him with the Q, which slows him down. Then you activate your W to hit him with the Q again, so that they can take the double damage from them being slowed from the first Q.
Wait, say that again?
So the first basic ability, your Hammer of the Naru, is a low damage, but it slows the hero, right? And then the W is going to do extra damage if they're already slowed. Are they on short enough cooldowns to make that happen?
Correct. Yes, they would have to be. These two, I think, are just inextricably linked. One cannot happen without the other, and if you try to do that, you're not going to be the best paladin out there.
The best Maraad out there.
Exactly. You might think you are, but until you get the combo down, you're nothing.
Okay, speaking of combo, let's see if the E fits into it. What's your E?
The E is the Fist of Justice. And this is inspired by a D&D paladin I ran into quite a few times back in college named Lance LaBruce. And Lance LaBruce, he was charismatic. He loved smiting things. We were out in the woods one night, and these evil things approached, and he ran off after them, smiting them in the trees. And you heard his cries of glory echoing through the forest as you saw light flash. And so, he loved fighting. So with paladins, why can't they fight with their fists? Why don't they just throw down? I feel they would enjoy it. So needing more satisfaction than a mere hammer hit, Maraad balls up his gauntlet and lets loose the 5 fingers of justice. This is an activatable ability that reduces the damage output from Maraad, but speeds up his attack, and with each hit, decreases his other cooldowns.
Oh, there's the combo right there. I love it. So... Basically, are you thinking that Maraad is a more combo-dependent assassin, like a Kerrigan, or more of an auto-attack assassin, like some of the other ones we know of, a la Falstad?
I think he would be very much based on his ability to pull off the combos. He could do decent damage, and in lower leagues, he would have no trouble standing his own ground, especially with the damage deflection. I think a lot of people would kind of not realize how powerful that could be over time. But once you get these combos down, you could lock somebody down and then just erase them in less than a minute.
Yeah, and I love how you said you could play it different ways, because this Fist of Justice is also increasing your attack speed. So, you know, you're gaining that attack speed if you wanted to go an auto attack route, and maybe even there would be a auto attack build that you could do for Maraad as you build the character up. Maybe you could, you know, not put any points into Hammer of the Naru or Justicar's Vengeance and just go with your Fist of Justice as your main deal.
Yeah, totally. And I think a lot of fun with his kit would be building, your 2 main choices would be building for a squirrely team with a lot of movement capability, or a very static team with not a lot of movement capability. And if they're stagnant, you would want to go more basic auto attacks. But if they're not, you definitely want to go the ability so you can control where they're going and tell them, no, you're not going there. We're going to fight this out.
Love it. So cool. I love talking about all this because, you know, I'm constantly learning more about the game and watching drafts and watching the pros play and, you know, watching all these streams and getting into all that stuff. And when we build kits that open up like that, open up options like that, I think it's just so cool. Let's get into the coolest part, though, and let's talk heroics. What's your first heroic for Maraad?
The first one is Judgment of Light. This marks an enemy hero with light and judgment. When hit, the damage done to the enemy heals all friendlies within range for that amount of damage. And it's not just one attack. This is a timed ability where when it's on a hero, an enemy hero, for that length of time, whatever damage they receive is outputted as healing.
But still another awesome combo point here, because you could activate this and then activate your Fist of Justice and then be doing your combo with your Q and your W and you're dealing a ton of damage. So with this heroic, does it last for a certain amount of time?
Yes, it does. So this might be one where you'd want to put it on a tank or a hero that you know will take a long time to take down. Because, you know, if it lasts for, let's say, 5 seconds, you're not going to put it on a Li Ming because your team's going to target the Li Ming and she's going to be gone in, you know, 0.5 seconds. But you put it on an ETC or a Stitches or a Varian even, and you've got yourself quite a long time to stay in the fight.
Oh yeah, and a paladin, you gotta add a little bit of a heal in there, because it doesn't matter what type of paladin you are, there's always a heal in there.
Always. I think it's against fantasy law that you can't have a paladin without some sort of heal.
Fantasy law. The fantasy police will come after you if you do. I love it. Second heroic, hit us with it.
Second one is called Crusade. Taking a page out of Johanna's book, Maraad understands the need to quell foes whenever and wherever they arise. Maraad enters into a battle state. His cooldowns are reduced, his damage is increased, his speed is unbelievable. At the end, however, he will die after throwing down a bubble of immunity and whispering something about being one.
This is great. This really speaks to paladins in a lot of different ways. You know, just bubble.
Just throw the bubble, man.
Oh, it's great though. Okay, so I mean, what I feel from your description here is that in that cutscene moments that we've seen where he lets those people go down the hallway, he's just so enraged and just, for lack of a better word, on this crusade to destroy his enemy, and he goes in there and just decimates that orc. Like, in 2 hits KO, you're gone.
Exactly. He's so OP. But then when we see the cutscene from Warlords of Draenor, he totally is, he found an orc he can't defeat, but he knows that the younger generation can pick up the hammer, and so he pops the bubble. I guess because he took the death blow already and Uriel was still going, so he gave her the immunity. Either way, I think the noble sacrifice is something every paladin strives to achieve. I mean, look at Uther. You kill him and he's still going around healing. He doesn't care. Absolutely.
Don't forget that. You can still heal as Uther. I forgot it many a time. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about this, though, because so we have Junkrat now that makes a sacrifice, right? The first one that we've really truly seen where you sacrifice yourself, and Blizzard balanced that out because they gave him the rocket to get back into the battle, and you don't count as a kill, right? So in this first question, do you count as a kill?
Yes, because I think you would take this as an assassin knowing you would take down more people than would take down your team.
Okay, so that brings me to the second question here. You're thinking that this is going to be an insane amount of basically stim drone to yourself.
Exactly. You're going in and you know you're not coming out, which is something that I personally like a lot because I very much enjoy the hunt on Illidan and I love Leap on Sonya because the ability to jump in at the right time, kill somebody, and immediately turn the tide of war in your favor is just phenomenal. But of course, there are a lot of times when you make a poor decision. So how neat would it be as an assassin to know that you're going to die at the end of this anyway? So just go in and go ham and kill everybody you possibly can.
Yeah, I love it. It's so cool. I think it's awesome. So you're on a full death timer at this thing.
Yeah, whatever the death timer is at that point in the game.
Whew, making a sacrifice. You got to make it worth it.
Exactly. So there's going to be a lot of decision making and judgment calls. And, maybe it's not the best for Maraad since his judgment calls aren't always the best.
Too soon. Too soon, Kristen. I think too soon. Oh, really great build. Really great kit. I love it so much. How do you sum this whole thing up?
I sum it up with, he's not a paladin. He's a paladin.
It's my favorite part of every week. It truly, truly is. But we cannot call these heroes forged until we talk about specialty skins and dance moves. So let's just do that. And let's start out with Kristen's specialty skin. Hit it with us, Kristen.
All right, I'm going with something called Vindicator Maraad. And no one knew cool until Maraad showed up. But we're not going with like that 80s neon color. He's in a pushover. He's got bubble gum that he's chewing open mouth all the time. He's got suspenders, that white sleeveless shirt, and he carries a baseball bat.
Love it. Is he wearing a hat or is he like backwards cap, sunglasses?
That was a tough decision. I think I spent 30 minutes trying to decide if I was going to include the baseball cap and sunglasses. I think variations of the skin would have it, but the base would not.
I love it. That is so funny. Mine is, so I found out during the research of Maraad. I said Maraad.
It's hard, it's catchy. It's, rolls off the tongue.
Gosh, people are already opening their wallets to buy that skin, and they haven't even seen Maraad in the Nexus yet. But my specialty skin is based off the fact that there are actually dark Vindicators out there that I didn't know about. I mean, I've probably seen them in WoW, but didn't draw the line together. But so the idea would be a dark Vindicator Maraad, or maybe you could go with something like the King of Gondor Maraad, right? Like that full-on armor, wearing the crown. Maybe he, has long hair. Maybe he's a human in this skin.
I love it. Well, he's got the beard, too, and Aragorn had the beard at the end of Return of the King, so it would totally work. I love that idea, especially since you have that ability, the Guardian of Ancient Kings. That would be so amazing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I came up with that skin idea. Now, as for dance moves, I'm thinking that he would do the what I'm calling the helicopter mace, and he would spin it over his head like a helicopter.
Well, there we go. Would he take off at all and be a little scared and surprised that it happened? So kind of like a Thor thing.
Yeah, more.
But not to the side, up above.
Right, yeah, he's doing it up above, and it's more like a dance move, so I'm not thinking he's actually going to take off. I think it's more like he's gyrating maybe a little bit and swinging that helicopter.
Yeah, he lets loose sometimes. Paladins can have fun, too.
Listen,
come on.
Maybe he's a little tipsy because he's trying to forget things that happened in the past. Who knows?
Who knows, right? We don't actually know how he dealt with it personally.
Yeah, killing orcs, I think, is how he dealt with it.
Drinking their blood, which could get you high off of fell juice, right? Because their blood is tainted.
Fell juice. You heard it right here, ladies and gentlemen. Fell juice. The newest item in the auction house, only 3 million gold. All right, Kristen, what's your dance move idea?
I'm just pulling straight from WoW with the Tanakh Ton. And I read a little bit about this thing. Now this thing that so that's what it's taken from, and it's an Indian pop song released by this guy named Dollar Mendy. And the story goes that if you've never seen this video, you need to watch it, because the story goes his critics made fun of him and said that he was only popular because he featured very attractive women dancing in his music videos. So he releases this song, and it's just him, but there's this green screen, and he's playing 5 different characters in different colored robes representing the different elements, and they're like singing to each other and dancing in really bad green screen, and then at the end they all come together to create one giant singer.
And it's all him the whole time.
It's all him the whole time, and it became a sensation, and I don't know if this is true, but mayhaps be his greatest, most popular song, and no sexy women in the video.
So there was no sex appeal at all to this.
Yeah, I mean, different strokes for different folks, but there were no women in the video. It was just him.
Incredible. I must check it out. Some awesome skin and dance moves ideas. I think we can say it, Kristen. I think we can say that Maraad is officially forged. It feels good. It feels good to be back in the forging ring in 2018. Lots of forging coming at you every single week here on HeroesForge. Kristen, I don't want to say it, but I think Maraad, I'm going to say it. I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. He's going to be in the Nexus. I really think so. I think when you think Draenei, you think Ural, you think Maraad. I don't know. Maybe we'll see both of them. I'm going to call it right now. Maraad, next hero after Firebat.
Oh, nice. I like that idea. I think it's either going to be Maraad or Velen. I think
Velen.
Because Maraad was featured in the BC cut, and then Velen is just, he's the Draenei.
Yeah, you did it. You outdid me. You're right. Yeah, your Velen is totally the Draenei and would be an awesome support character. Who knows? We'll see. We called it right here on the 7th of January. We'll see what happens. You heard it here, folks, right here on HeroesForge. Not confirmed.
We're taking your bets now. Show up on Twitter and tell us what you like.
Yeah, do it. Show up on Twitter and tell us what you like. And also a huge thank you to Tobias L for sending this in. Just bravo. Awesome kit. You can read all of Tobias's ideas on our website. Again, that's heroesforge.club. And there's some really awesome. It was really hard to pick a featured forger ability, as always. And if you've got an idea you want to see on the show, you want to see featured right here on our monthly special for featured forgers, you can send it to us in a million different ways. We've had people send us tweets of all of the different abilities, one tweet for each ability as you go down. You can do that on our Twitter handle, which is @ForgeHeroes. You can send us an email, which is contactheroesforge@gmail.com. You can drop us a YouTube comment. It's on youtube.com/HeroesForge, or you can click the contact tab on the website, and there's lots of different ways you can get a hold of us. Kristen, where can people find you in the interwebs when you're not on this show?
In the interwebs, you can find me at Dream Destroyer. That is DRMDESTRYR over at Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
And what are we working on in streams? Deus Ex?
But Cuphead. We're doing Cuphead, and I am so in love with this game. It is beautiful. The animation is just stunning. The sound effects, the songs, the difficulty of these bosses. This team, 15 out of 10 with respect to how much work went into this.
Oh, I could not agree more. Get out there and play Cuphead. It's worth every cent. The game is so good, so fun. Play it with everybody you know. You could have a party people over. It draws me back to when that was a thing, Hey, come over, we're all playing this game, and then you could sit around, and it's a great game.
It really is, and it's not that expensive either. It's $20 if it's not still on sale. I mean, oh my goodness, I just can't stop raving about it.
Pick it up. It is a great, great game. And check out Kristen's stream. It's really, really fun. If you think she's fun on this show, this is mild compared to how fun she is on her stream, and I always drop in there, and it is a ton of fun. You can find this podcast on any of your favorite podcasting apps, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and I think we covered it all. We record the show every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/Amove TV. A huge thank you to everyone that always comes and hangs out in the chat. Rock stars as always, as they know. We need to thank our patrons yet again. Thank you so much for supporting the show, and a huge thank you again to Jared for for being a new patron this week. Head on over to patreon.com/HeroesForge to find out how you too can become a patron of this show and get a shout out just like Jared. All right, Kristen, final thoughts on Maraad.
I like him a lot. He's helped me come to terms with my issues with paladins. And through my research with him and all of the other past research we've done with other past paladins, I understand a bit more where they come from and can sympathize with the fact that they're not usually written in and forgot about. A lot of them do suffer very extreme changes because of what they choose to do.
Yeah, it's funny. As I was doing the research on him, I was thinking about how you might enjoy the fact that he failed and then just became, even in the failing portion of it, became so angry that he was just going to sacrifice whatever these innocent Draenei lives because he was so passionate. And that sounds like a Kristen story.
It does. I am a sucker for character journeys, right? Because to me, and I read this somewhere, it's a great thing with a story is that when you read a story or experience a story, there is this unspoken contract made between the writer and the reader that the reader is going to see a character transformed that by the end won't be able to go back to who they were when the story started. So I think that's why paladins drive me crazy a bit, is because they stick to their guns the whole time. They don't change. And then they're dead. They didn't learn anything. But, real life, that happens all the time. And who's to say that when Uther was struck down by Arthas, he didn't have that moment of regret. And that split second was when that character change happened.
Too cool. And there are so many characters out there in all of these Blizzard games and beyond that we want to talk about that have awesome stories like Maraad, like the one that Kristen is talking about. So more to come on Heroes Forge. We're going to call the show there. Thank you again to Tobias for sending this kit in. It was a blast, and we'll see you all in the real world.